The vast emptiness of space stretched before the UES Resolute, a sleek human starship that carried more than just military personnel. It carried the hopes of an entire species seeking recognition in a complex galactic ecosystem. Captain J. Park stood motionless, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the holographic displays that flickered with incoming data streams. Around them, alien mercenary fleets gathered like predatory wolves, each representing different species with centuries of combat experience. The Kreldar ships gleamed with metallic purple hulls, while the silicon-based Vorn squadrons appeared like crystalline structures against the dark backdrop of space. Specialist Hyun Kim worked silently at her station, her fingers dancing across quantum communication interfaces. She was different from typical military personnel, calm, calculated, with eyes that seemed to analyze multiple scenarios simultaneously. The ship's internal systems hummed with a quiet intensity that contrasted the external tension. The mission was simple on paper: secure a strategic asteroid belt in the Epsilon Quadrant. But nothing was ever simple when multiple mercenary groups converged with competing interests. "Incoming transmission," announced Lieutenant Park Sung, his voice steady and professional. Multiple frequency overlaps from mercenary channels. The alien communication networks began to buzz with increasingly aggressive chatter. Each group wanted to establish dominance, to prove their superiority before any actual combat occurred. Posturing was as much a part of their warfare as actual fighting. Jay observed the developing situation with remarkable composure. Where other commanders might show anxiety or aggression, he remained coolly analytical. His training had taught him that information was the most powerful weapon in any conflict. Suddenly, unexpected solar radiation began interfering with standard communication protocols. Most mercenary groups would retreat or become disorganized, but not the humans. Hyun Kim's fingers moved with lightning speed, recalibrating communication systems and creating adaptive frequency modulations. Within moments, their ship maintained perfect communication clarity while surrounding alien vessels struggled with signal interference. The first signs of surprise rippled through the alien mercenary networks. Who were these humans who could maintain perfect operational efficiency under challenging conditions? A Kreldar battlecruiser, massive and intimidating, positioned itself aggressively near the Resolute. Its commander, a reptilian creature with multiple eyes and scaled skin, transmitted a standard intimidation sequence, a traditional method of establishing dominance. J. Park simply raised an eyebrow and nodded to Hyun. She responded with a precise communication burst that simultaneously acknowledged the threat and demonstrated their complete tactical awareness. The solar storm intensified. Plasma discharges created electromagnetic chaos that would typically render most ships temporarily blind and vulnerable, but the human vessel moved with calculated precision, using the interference as a tactical advantage rather than a hindrance. Lieutenant Sung began plotting potential engagement scenarios, his holographic displays showing multiple potential outcomes. With cold mathematical probability, each potential conflict was analyzed not just for immediate victory, but for long-term strategic implications. What the alien mercenaries didn't understand was that humans approached warfare as a complex problem-solving exercise. It wasn't about overwhelming force, but about intelligent adaptation. As minutes passed, the human crew remained unnervingly calm. No raised voices, no panic, just synchronized, efficient movement. Each crew member understood their role with crystal clarity, moving like a single intelligent organism. The Vorn squadrons began to reassess their initial aggressive posturing. Something was different about these humans. They didn't display traditional signs of military bravado or emotional reactivity. Instead, they projected a sense of quiet, dangerous competence. Hyun Kim detected subtle changes in the surrounding ship's energy signatures. The mercenary groups were no longer just observing. They were now studying the human vessel with growing respect and a hint of emerging fear. Captain J. Park allowed himself a slight, almost imperceptible smile. The first engagement hadn't even begun, yet the psychological warfare was already shifting in their favor. The asteroid belt loomed ahead, a strategic location that would determine the next phase of galactic mercenary operations. But today, it would also become a testament to human military philosophy, adaptability, intelligence, and calm determination. As solar winds continued to rage and electromagnetic interference created a chaotic battlefield, the UES Resolute remained a beacon of controlled efficiency. The first contact was more than just a military encounter. It was the beginning of a reputation that would echo through mercenary networks for generations. The humans had arrived, and nothing would be the same again. The interstellar cantina on the trading moon of Proxima 9 buzzed with low conversations. Alien mercenaries from a dozen different species gathered around worn tables, their drinks casting strange colored shadows across weathered faces. But today, their discussions weren't about upcoming contracts or recent battles. They were talking about humans. Captain Wu, a veteran Krellian mercenary with deep blue skin and 3 mechanical arms, leaned forward. His cybernetic eye flickered as he recalled recent encounters. "They're not like other species," he muttered to a group of listeners. "Humans don't just fight. They solve problems." A Vorn trader named Kel pushed a glowing liquid across the table. "Tell us more," he demanded, his crystalline body reflecting the dim bar lights. Wu pulled up a holographic recording from his last mission. The video showed a human tactical unit navigating through a complex asteroid field during a mercenary conflict. Where other teams would have been destroyed, these humans moved with mathematical precision. "Watch how they communicate," Wu explained. Each human team member seemed to understand complex strategies without extensive verbal commands. They anticipated challenges before they occurred, redirecting resources with minimal communication. Rumors spread faster than communications technology in the mercenary networks. Stories traveled from one solar system to another, each retelling adding subtle layers of mystery. Humans weren't just another species trying to prove themselves. They were becoming something else entirely. In a remote communication hub, encrypted channels began sharing tactical recordings. Young mercenaries studied these videos like ancient texts, trying to understand the unique human approach to conflict resolution. Lieutenant Maya Chen's tactical briefing from the Epsilon engagement became required viewing. Her explanation wasn't about heroic combat, but about strategic problem-solving. She described warfare as a complex system where psychological preparation was more important than raw firepower. The mercenary groups started noticing patterns. Human units never wasted resources. They used minimal equipment to achieve maximum results. Their technology wasn't always the most advanced, but their application was revolutionary. A Zentarian combat analyst named Rax compiled a comprehensive report. His findings were startling. Human units had a success rate 67% higher than combined mercenary groups, using 40% fewer resources. The numbers didn't just speak, they shouted. Mercenary contracts began changing. Teams that previously guaranteed victory now included complex clauses about potential human intervention. Insurance rates for missions increased dramatically if human units were predicted to be in the region. The psychological impact was profound. Where other species saw combat as a test of strength, humans saw it as a complex mathematical and strategic challenge. They didn't seek glory or individual recognition. They sought efficient solutions. Stories circulated about human units turning seemingly impossible scenarios into strategic victories. A small team rescuing hostages without firing a single weapon. Another group resolving a 3-year territorial conflict through intelligent negotiation rather than combat. The reputation grew. Whispers became legends. And with each retelling, the human mythos expanded. Veteran mercenaries who once laughed at human capabilities now studied their tactics. Military academies across multiple star systems began incorporating human strategic approaches into their training programs. What made humans different wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to adapt, to think beyond traditional combat paradigms. They treated warfare like a complex puzzle, where every move was calculated, every resource precious. The Krellian mercenary network started a classified database, Every recorded human tactical engagement was analyzed, studied, dissected. They wanted to understand this new variable in galactic conflicts. Young mercenaries began mimicking human communication styles. They practiced calm decision-making. They learned to see challenges as opportunities rather than threats. The human influence was spreading beyond mere tactical strategies. Captain Wu finished his story, looking around the cantina. The other mercenaries sat in silence, processing the implications. Something fundamental had changed in their understanding of warfare. Humans weren't just another species fighting for territory or resources. They were rewriting the entire concept of conflict resolution, and the galaxy was taking notice. As night fell on Proxima 9, the whispers continued. Legends were being born, one story at a time. The humans had arrived, and nothing would remain the same. The Centauri conflict erupted without warning, consuming 3 planetary systems in a heartbeat. 17 different mercenary groups positioned themselves, expecting total annihilation. Each believed they understood warfare. Each was about to be proven wrong. Commander Kang Min stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, his dark eyes scanning complex holographic displays. Around him, his team moved with a synchronized rhythm that seemed almost impossible. No panic, no unnecessary movements, just pure calculated efficiency. The conflict centered on the resource-rich Centauri trading corridors. Massive corporations and multiple alien species wanted control. Billions of credits and countless lives hung in the balance. Traditional military logic suggested total destruction was inevitable, but humans didn't play by traditional rules. Lieutenant Park Seok analyzed incoming data streams. Where other commanders would see chaos, he saw patterns. Complex mathematical equations transformed battlefield information into strategic opportunities. His fingers moved across quantum interfaces, redirecting resources with surgical precision. The first wave of mercenary attacks came from the Kreldar squadrons. Their massive battleships approached with overwhelming firepower, expecting to crush any resistance. They had destroyed entire planetary defenses in previous conflicts. Commander Kang didn't meet force with force. Instead, he used the attacking ship's own momentum against them. Specialized communication jammers created targeted interference. Kreldar navigation systems became confused. Their massive ships, designed for direct confrontation, suddenly found themselves fighting their own navigation protocols. Specialist Hyun Kim managed communication networks. She didn't just block signals, she redirected them, creating false communication channels that led enemy units into carefully prepared defensive positions. Each move was calculated, each decision precise. 3 planetary defense systems that were supposed to fall within hours remained intact. The mercenary groups watched in disbelief as human units transformed certain defeat into strategic triumph. No excessive violence, no dramatic heroics, just pure intelligent problem-solving. The Vorn Crystal squadrons attempted a flanking maneuver. Their advanced technology had crushed countless opponents before. But the human units anticipated their approach, creating elaborate defensive networks that turned the attack into a complex defensive dance. Commander Kang's strategy wasn't about killing. It was about neutralizing threats with minimal resources and maximum efficiency. Communication networks were rebuilt. Strategic points were reclaimed. Civilian populations were protected. Where other military units saw conflict as destruction, humans saw it as a complex system to be managed and resolved. Lieutenant Park's tactical displays showed something unprecedented. They were not just defending. They were systematically creating conditions for long-term peace. Each strategic move considered not just immediate victory, but future stability. Mercenary groups watched in stunned silence. Their traditional understanding of warfare was being completely rewritten. The Centauri trading corridors, which were supposed to become a massive battlefield, instead became a demonstration of intelligent conflict resolution. Human units moved like a living, breathing organism, each member understanding their role, anticipating challenges before they occurred. Advanced alien technologies found themselves neutralized by simple, intelligent adaptations. Massive battleships were rendered ineffective by carefully placed communication disruptions. Billion-credit weapon systems became useless against human strategic thinking. As the conflict entered its final stages, something remarkable happened. The human units had not just survived, they had transformed the entire strategic landscape. Mercenary groups that entered the conflict expecting total war found themselves negotiating peace terms. The humans had changed the entire conversation. Commander. Kang Min watched the final tactical reports. No dramatic speeches, no celebrations, just a simple acknowledgement of a complex problem successfully resolved. The Centauri conflict became more than just another military engagement. It became a turning point in galactic military philosophy. Humans had arrived, and they were playing an entirely different game. As communication networks processed the final reports, one thing became clear. Warfare would never be the same again. The breaking point had been reached, and humanity had redefined the entire concept of conflict. The silence began subtly, like a whisper spreading across the galaxy. Alien mercenary communication networks suddenly became quiet whenever human units were mentioned. No transmissions, no negotiations, just an eerie collective hush. Contracts that once promised aggressive engagements now included complex clauses about potential human intervention. Insurance rates for missions skyrocketed. Mercenary groups that previously boasted about their combat capabilities now hesitated, their confidence replaced by a growing sense of uncertainty. Captain Wu, the veteran Krellian mercenary, sat in his command center, studying the changing landscape. His cybernetic eye scanned multiple communication channels. Where once there were heated discussions and bold claims, now only careful, measured communications remained. A young Vorn tactical analyst named Kell discovered something peculiar. Mercenary groups were actively avoiding missions in sectors where human units might potentially operate. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something more complex. A deep psychological recognition of a fundamentally different approach to conflict. Lieutenant Su Yan's tactical recordings became more than just training materials. They were studied like sacred texts. Every movement, every decision analyzed with microscopic precision. Military academies across multiple star systems incorporated human strategic approaches into their core curriculum. The economic impact was immediate and profound. Entire mercenary networks restructured their operational protocols. Training programs changed. Communication strategies were rewritten. The humans had become more than just another military force. They were a new paradigm of strategic thinking. And the trading moon of Proxima 9, veteran mercenaries gathered in dimly lit cantinas. Their conversations became hushed, almost reverent. They spoke about humans not as an enemy, but as something beyond traditional understanding. Commander Kang Min's approach to the Centauri conflict became a case study. How could a small human unit transform an entire conflict without massive firepower? The answer lay in something more powerful than weapons: intelligent adaptation. Alien communication networks developed a new protocol. When human units were mentioned, discussions would momentarily pause. A collective intake of breath. A recognition of something different. The silence wasn't about fear. It was about respect. Mercenary contract databases showed a dramatic shift. Missions that might involve human intervention were either canceled or restructured. Teams that once promised total victory now included complex risk assessments about potential human involvement. Specialized communication experts tried to understand the phenomenon. Why did the mere mention of human units cause such a profound psychological response? The answer wasn't simple. It was a combination of demonstrated capability, intelligent strategy, and a fundamentally different approach to conflict resolution. Technological advantages meant nothing compared to human strategic thinking. Advanced weapon systems became secondary to intelligent problem-solving. The humans had introduced a new variable into the galactic conflict ecosystem. On remote communication hubs, encrypted channels shared subtle warnings. Be careful if humans are involved became an unspoken rule, not a threat, but a professional Courtesy. The Vorn Crystal Squadrons, once known for their aggressive combat strategies, now included extensive studies of human tactical approaches in their training programs. Young mercenaries studied human communication styles, their approach to resource management, their ability to turn potential disasters into strategic opportunities. Lieutenant Park Seok's tactical analyses became required reading, not just for military personnel, but for anyone seeking to understand modern conflict resolution. His approach wasn't about winning through force, but about creating conditions for long-term stability. Galactic insurance companies developed new risk assessment models. Human intervention became a complex mathematical variable that changed entire mission parameters. The silence spread. From small trading moons to massive communication networks, a new understanding emerged. Humans weren't just another species, fighting for territory or resources. They were rewriting the entire concept of strategic engagement. Commander Kang Min would have found the entire situation quietly amusing. No dramatic speeches, no celebrations, just a profound, systemic change in how conflicts were understood and resolved. As communication networks continued their hushed conversations, one thing became crystal clear. The galaxy had changed. And the humans had led that change not through force but through intelligent adaptation. The silence spoke volumes. The grand halls of the Galactic Mercenary Council stood silent, filled with representatives from hundreds of different species. They had gathered to understand a fundamental shift in galactic conflict dynamics, the human phenomenon. Commander Kang Min sat quietly, his presence alone changing the atmosphere of the massive chamber. Around him, alien diplomats and military strategists studied him with a mixture of curiosity and profound respect. Dr. Hyun Kim presented the comprehensive analysis. Her holographic displays showed decades of human tactical engagements. The data told a story far more complex than simple military success. It revealed a species that approached challenges as intelligent problem-solving opportunities. The numbers were staggering. Human units had achieved mission success rates 73% higher than combined mercenary groups. But more importantly, they did so using 60% fewer resources and with minimal casualties. This wasn't just military efficiency. It was a completely new approach to conflict resolution. A Kreldar senior diplomat spoke first. Humans don't see conflict as destruction, he observed. They see it as a complex system to be managed and transformed. The presentation revealed something extraordinary. Human strategic thinking wasn't about winning wars, but about creating conditions for long-term peace. Each military engagement was analyzed not just for immediate results, but for potential future stability. Lieutenant Park Seok's communication strategies became a case study. He had demonstrated how intelligent communication could resolve conflicts more effectively than massive weapon systems. Diplomacy wasn't a secondary option, it was a primary strategic tool. The Vorn representatives were particularly fascinated. Their crystalline bodies reflected the holographic displays, analyzing every minute detail of human strategic approaches. They recognized something revolutionary, a species that treated warfare as an advanced mathematical and communication challenge. Decades of mercenary conflict had taught most species that power was about overwhelming force. Humans proved that true power was about intelligent adaptation. The economic impact was profound. Entire mercenary network structures were being redesigned. Military academies across multiple star systems began incorporating human strategic approaches into their core curriculum. Dr. Kim's final slide showed something unexpected, a graph demonstrating how human units consistently transformed potential conflict zones into stable economic regions. They weren't just solving immediate challenges, they were creating long-term systemic solutions. The Galactic Mercenary Council members realized they were witnessing more than a military presentation. They were seeing the emergence of a fundamentally different approach to interstellar relations. Commander Kang Min never spoke during the presentation. His quiet presence was more powerful than any speech. He represented something beyond traditional military leadership, a calm, intelligent approach to complex challenges. The legacy wasn't about military superiority. It was about a different way of understanding conflict, resources, and human potential. Specialized communication networks began sharing the presentation. Young mercenaries and military strategists studied every detail. The humans had introduced a new paradigm of strategic thinking. One Xantarian analyst summarized it perfectly. Humans don't fight wars. They solve complex problems that happen to involve conflict. The presentation concluded with a simple message. Conflict is a system that can be managed, not a problem that must be destroyed. As the Galactic Mercenary Council members processed the information, something fundamental had changed. The humans had redefined not just warfare, but the entire concept of strategic engagement. Their approach wasn't about winning. It was about creating intelligent, sustainable solutions. The room remained silent, but it was a different kind of silence, not of fear, but of profound respect and understanding. Commander Kang Min stood up. No dramatic speech, no celebration, just a simple acknowledgement of a complex journey completed. The legacy was complete. Humans had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. As communication networks processed the presentation, one thing became absolutely clear. A new era of interstellar relations had begun, not through force but through intelligent, compassionate problem-solving.